Hello, welcome to the Stockyard Industrial League. I'm Eric Miller, and today I want to show you how I do my track diagrams that are along the fascia on the layout. This is something I get questions about quite often, and so I just thought I'd do a quick tutorial on how I do them. I'm sure there's other ways that you can do it, but this is a way that's fairly simple, I think, and works pretty well for me. And this customer right here has changed a little bit, so I need to replace this. And so I just thought this is a good opportunity to show you how I do it. So as I mentioned, I need to replace the track diagram that I've got for this customer. I made a significant change here. What I decided to do was I got rid of the customer that was at the end here that used this the center track. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got the main line coming through here, and then I've got two spur tracks. So the center track used to go down to another customer down that way, and I decided to get rid of that and instead have the spur also serve this customer here. So I've got two spur tracks, so they do loading from both tracks. So they'll actually load through a boxcar or a reefer that's on the first track with a bridge plate. So that's the plan now. So what I need to do then is update this diagram. So this customer is no longer here. And also, instead of this being United States cold storage, it's going to be standard distribution. So I need to change that as well. So I thought I'd just go along and show you how I do this. Now, ideally, what I like to do is not make any changes at all. So I just laminate all these track diagrams, put them on the fascia, and done, right? So when I first started the layout several years ago, I just taped little pieces of paper kind of temporarily in case I made any adjustments. And then I started laminating these thinking, okay, this is it. Well, I keep making changes. Fortunately, this is a fairly easy process to go through, but I do get a little tired of buying laminating paper all the time. But anyways, as I'll show you, it's not too difficult to do it. So we'll go ahead and replace this one. I usually like to do 2 or 3 at a time. So I think I'm going to replace the one next to it that slightly changes also. But aside from that, I think that'll be all the main changes that we're going to make today. So yeah, I'll just go along and show you how that works and what the steps are. And so hopefully it's something that you can do at home, or at least hopefully that there'll be a few tips that you'll learn from this. You don't have to do exactly as I'm showing you, but hopefully this is helpful. Okay, so I create all of my layout track diagrams in PowerPoint. I find this program is pretty easy to do a lot of kind of graphic editing in. It's pretty basic. It's not as expensive as Photoshop or Illustrator, for example. Most of you probably have this in your office suite, I'm guessing, so it's pretty easy. And so you'll see here I've got basically 6 track diagrams for my small switching layout. That's all I use. And what I did to begin with is I made sure to kind of print these out and size them and make sure they're the correct size that I wanted to for laminating and with the layout. And then the other thing I did was kind of create a template where these holes are or where I have screws into the fascia. And so that's the guide that I used around the layout to screw them into the fascia. So now that I've got that down, I just use the same file over and over again. So we're going to work on this one here on the bottom. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. A little too much there at first. Okay. All right, so as I said, we're going to get rid of US cold storage. We're going to get rid of schooler. We're not going to spot covered hoppers anymore. So these are all little graphics and things that I've put in here. These are text boxes. And then these are basically lines. So you'll see that up here in PowerPoint, there's all sorts of different shapes that you can draw. And so I don't think I have to draw any new ones. I'm going to shorten this spur a little bit, and then I'm going to lengthen this one, because now we're going to have, we've got another door at this site because I extended that. So we're going to copy that. And this is going to be D. And then I'm also going to note, let's see, spot reefers at doors. I also want to note that there's 2 different tracks. So I'm going to select these, move them up a little bit. I'm going to copy this text box. couple of times. Actually, what I might do is just, so I'm going to have a track 1 and 2, pretty simple. So then this one can be track 1, and then I'll copy and paste, and then this one will be track 2. Okay. So now it'll be pretty simple when operators come to work on the layout or to operate on the layout. What I'll do is I'll have a note that basically says, you know, spot this car at, for example, A or 1A, you know, and then or maybe 2A, right? And so those will be your options. And move this up slightly. So that's basically how I design it. This spur is going to be the same, so we'll just leave that there. That's the City of Omaha sewer spot. So now we've changed our track here. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the new graphic for standard distribution, which I found on their website. Standard Distribution is a real company in Omaha. It is a warehouse. It's actually there's actually one located in South Omaha, very close to the area that I model. So that's why I'm going with this company. And they have another site in Omaha that does get rail service. The one in South Omaha doesn't. So I'll put that there. So that way when when an operator looks at the switch list, and it'll say, you know, this is the work at Standard Distribution. This should be pretty obvious that's Standard Distribution. A couple other tips that I have for these track diagrams. I always like to put kind of the name of the layout here. It really connects this location to the greater layout, right? And then I have 3 locations on the layout. I have the South Omaha Yard, Albright, and Bellevue, and so I also like to highlight those. So this is Albright. Now another thing I used to do is directions, east and west. With a small switching layout, I don't think that's as important. It's really not confusing when you just have a pretty small layout that just goes from one end to another in a very short section of space. So I got rid of that because what I really like to do is try to keep this pretty basic and simple so that it looks nice and clean, right? So keep it simple. So I just got rid of the directions. If you have a larger layout, you might want the directions, or you might want to say, you know, for example, this might say, you know, to Bellevue and to South Omaha, like the 2 terminals, right? But again, it's a pretty small layout, so I don't think I have to provide that information. Some other tips, I like to put arrows on track that continues on, and then the ones that terminate, I just have an N without an arrow. Sometimes you could also put like a solid line up against it to show them that like this is where it ends. Other things that I put on here are gates. As I continue with the scenery, I'm going to have real working gates. But that also refers to the locks that I have along the layout. So a conductor will know that they have to unlock a gate in order to get in here, for example. So those are just some other things. But yeah, I think this one is ready to print. I'm just gonna give this another look. This looks like it's a little too far over in comparison with the others. That looks like it's spaced a little bit better now. I nudge this one over just a little bit. And then actually what I'm going to do is move all of these over just a little so that they are a little farther away from the South Omaha sewer. So you want good spatial orientation for this. Yeah, that looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and print this out, and then I'll show you how I laminate it and cut it out and get it ready to add to the layout. So we're almost done. So the process of laminating is pretty simple. I just bought a basic laminating machine from Office Depot Office Max, and this machine is capable of doing any number of laminating pouches, which you can pick up there at the store. Okay, I've got my track diagrams printed and cut out, and then I also decided to do a little sign that I'm going to put on the building. This is an example of some laminating pouches. I've used these before for like little cards, like crew cards. I don't really use them anymore because I have such a small crew. What I'm using today is an 8.5 by 11 pouch. Initially I did 5 by 7 pouches for these, but then I ran out of them and I just have these left. So that's what I'm using today. So basically, after you have these printed out and cut out, then you just start putting them into the laminating machine. Or I mean the laminating pouch here. So I'm just going to put one like that. I'm going to put the sign up here, I don't know, like that. That doesn't have to be perfect. And then this one I'm just going to actually flip around to the top. All right, just like that. And we're going to feed it into the machine. Okay, so this is pretty easy to do. It keeps them protected while they're on the layout fascia if anybody brushes by them or something gets spilled on it. And it's also a little bit simpler than like cutting glass to put around your track diagrams. Okay, so here's what it looks like after it's been laminated. We'll let it cool for just a little bit before you start doing anything, otherwise the lamination part will warp. But then after it's dry, you want to just cut your stuff out. Again, if you're doing the 5x7 pouches like I used to do, you don't have to cut anything, it's just ready to go. Alright, so that's basically what you want right there. Okay, so after these are cut out, the trick I use to put holes in for screws is I just get a hole punch. And this is why I have these printed out with the hole spacing for the screws. Just go around and punch each one. Now we're basically ready to install it onto the fascia. Okay, so the last step is we're going to replace this new diagram with the old one. So we'll just unscrew this. Now when I first installed these, I did drill little holes, although with these nice pointy screws, it's really easy actually to just screw these in directly to the fascia if you're just using hardboard like I do. Okay, but there's the holes there. And so I'll just reuse those holes. Give each one a little start. And screw the rest of them all the way in. And you want to make sure as you're doing this, press it firmly against the fascia so that's nice, flat, and even as each screw goes in. Just like that. And now everything's up to date. So we got our new track diagram installed and it's laminated and it looks great. So that's it. Hopefully, like I said, this is pretty easy process to follow. Maybe you learn some things that you can do if you're interested in this technique. And so hopefully it's helpful. Feel free to leave any comments for questions that you might have about this. And as always, let me know if there's any other videos that you want me to do of the layout. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.